Hi and welcome to Real Magic Review. My name is Steve Faulkner and today I'm going to be reviewing The Illusioneer by Carlos Vaquera. But first, check out cardmagiccourse.com. I've just started filming my new course on the Royal Road to Card Magic, where I'm going to be over the next months and months and months. It's going to be a big one, going in depth to the whole book in real time. So I'm going to be adding to it every couple of weeks. So you can ask questions, you can get involved, and it's not just for beginners, it's for everyone. This book it's just been brilliant looking at it again. So get amongst that, $9.99 a month, and check it out on cardmagiccourse.com. And please like, subscribe, and share it if you like this, or just tell people about it. It makes all the difference. So this has been another one. The last book was Phil Smith that I reviewed, and every time I review a book, and before that was Pure Imagination, I think. Every time I review a book, I go, I cannot do this thing of reading it with cards in hand or with stuff in hand all the way through, or with doing the stuff. I have to just sort of skim it and review it. But again, you know, I got hold of this and I was like, right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to read it. I'm going to take it to bed without the cards. And, you know, half an hour later, I'm downstairs with a deck of cards and here we go again. So it's taken me a long time to read this book. I got this way back when I got a Pure Imagination book. I will say when I got it, Andy Gladwin sent it to me and he said, this is an old school book and in a good way. All right, and so that's great. So that's just what I like. And by that, I think he means that it's obviously it's beautifully made. Anything from Vanishing Ink is beautifully made. It's very well bound. But you open it up and it looks like one of those kind of Larry Jennings type books with the kind of paper. It's not that kind of shiny paper. It's that nice thick stock, and the printing and it's illustrations. It's not photos, and it's not a bad thing at all. But it just feels like that. And then when you read the material, the influences are Marlowe, Vernon, Carpenter, Jennings, you know, and of course Ascanio and Tamaris. And Carlos is a student of Ascanio, and you can tell and that's again, it's not in a way that he's copying, in a way that he just has that kind of that poeticness. That's not a word, is it? But the first thing I started thinking when I was reading this on the first page was that it was quite poetic. And then I've done a little bit of research, and he is a poet and an artist, and so it makes complete sense. But it has that feel to it that we're kind of used to with the people that come out of Spain. And they're not all the same. And I'm not saying that. But it just does have a kind of Spanish feel. That's not the wrong thing to say, but it probably is. But there you go. But that's good, because that's coming on to us now, and it's making us think. So the opening of this is about a book is like a bird with its wings folded, and when we open it, the birds let fly, and it's all that stuff, and I love it. I love all that. So that's brilliant. And the introduction it really does whet the appetite, or like a well-written introduction should. It's not overlong. By the time you get into it, you know, he says, I want you to take these routines and make them your own. You know, don't copy them. These are there to be adapted. And this is a book that really does lend itself to that, I did find. And I'll tell you why in a minute, if I remember, when we get there in 3 hours' time. So after reading the introduction, you then want it to live up to it. I've done that before. When you read an introduction, sometimes to an effect or a book, and you think this is going to be some amazing stuff, you know, and you read it and you go, it's not that great, is it? But this didn't do that. The first trick was good. Okay, it's solid, good, nice trick. Maybe not over commercial, but it definitely would work for lay people. It's this. It's like a transposition. You show a couple of kings or whatever you want. You deal them down. They've risen to the top of 2 decks. And then, I'll do a demonstration. I'll do a video demonstration. It'll make sense. I'm not going to describe every trick. I'll get into that habit. And again, we're going to be here in 3 days. This is the Queen Shadows. We start off with the 2 red queens. And we'll put the 2 decks there. And all I do is touch the cards, and the red queens travel to the top, leaving just the shadows underneath. So what would be your favourite queen? Queen of clubs. Okay, cool. And that can clearly be any queen. You keep your eye on where the Queen of Clubs is. And there's no trick here. And what I'd like to do is cut 3 packs, just like this. I'll do it, but they can do that bit. And put the queens down and watch. See, there's the Queen of Clubs, but there's the Queen of Diamonds, the Queen of Hearts, and the Queen of Spades. But you cut these 4 packs and you cut to the aces. But it starts very well, and then, it was a bit knacky, and I thought, that's all right, it's not difficult, it's not a difficult trick, okay. Second trick, a little bit more knacky, but really lovely. Again, a kind of almost like a Dr. Daly trick with a couple of really lovely, almost Dan and Dave Buck, flowy kind of, not flourishy, but nearly, and there are Dan and Dave Buck references in this, but something that I really got obsessed with because it was difficult, and so I got obsessed with it. And then we go into what I call the sort of triumph section. He's got 3 triumphs. He's actually got a number of kind of references to triumph throughout the book, but 3 different triumphs, 2 in the hands, 1 on the table. And by this time I got really into it. It's got a lovely one with where you've got a rising card triumph, which is probably the easiest out of all of them, with no gimmicks. It's not a gimmick rising card. But I thought that was great. But the good thing about these triumphs is they give you, those displays that you see. There's the Daryl one, which isn't in this, but there's the other displays in the hands that you see and you go, wow, where does that come from? And it's got them in it. So I think it's almost like these 3 triumphs are different ways of allowing you to understand how triumph works and what you can do to make it more convincing. I've always struggled with triumph, getting my head around how it actually works. I've talked about this before, but this really helped that. I have 3 different triumphs, and by the end of it, I keep practicing them now. They're not solid. But there's some really devious little methods in there, and it's got that lovely display from the Paul Harris thing when you keep showing face up and face down cards by taking cards off the top and putting them in, and it's so convincing. So I've really, really enjoyed that. And then we go on to, there's tricks with a couple of gambling routines. There's a couple of blank card routines, one where a signature jumps from one card to the other, which I've talked about before. Later on, actually, there's another blank card routine, which is an all backs routine, which, you're starting to realise that we're drawing on classics here. The all backs routine is brilliant, by the way. With blank cards, it just looks stunning. So I'm really glad I had a blank deck to do that with. And I think it's worth getting one for that and the couple of blank card tricks that you get with this. But like I say, you're starting to draw on classics here. And this is a book of classics. This is a book of tricks that you kind of should know one of, and it gives you a few of them. So there's sandwich tricks, there's collector's tricks. There's a brilliant collector's routine where you make the aces vanish, or you make the cards vanish one at a time, and then one at a time they appear in the deck, and at the end they're collected. It's very challenging, and as a lot of these routines are, but again, really something to get your teeth into for the intermediate to advanced card worker. And this is what this is. I soon realised that, I like to have little demonstrations of me doing the moves, and I will put some on, but it's taken a long time to get them smooth. The tricks aren't that difficult to pick up, but you realise that there are quite a lot of moments where if you don't keep 2 cards together, there's a version of Larry Jennings' Open Travellers, which is just amazing. Travelling Aces, it's called, Invisible Palming, and I absolutely adore it. And then it's got a kicker at the end, so you do the whole Open Travellers thing when the card appears, which is, I saw Peter Wardell do that for the first time. He did I think it was the Jennings original in one of his shows, and it just looks like those cards appear. And there's a brilliant version with Wayne Outchin does it on True Astonishments as well, which I like. That version's quite easy, really. But this does that, and then at the end you do it again, and then turn over the cards, and they've just switched from aces to queens or whatever. So you've got a lot of these kickers. What he tends to do is take original tricks and routines, doesn't mess with them too much, adds maybe arguably a bit of difficulty, and creates a kicker on them or something, but it doesn't tend to belittle the trick. It's not that thing of, oh, we've added something for the sake of it. But there were a couple of moments where I think it was Damask, this brilliant trick where someone chooses a card and you keep showing it, but then it becomes the ace of spades and it keeps becoming the ace of spades. So there's quite a lot of comedy in there. But then you've done like a matching the cards thing where you've put the cards down and then turn them over, and then the 4 aces. I'm butchering it, but it's a transposition, it's a chosen card, it's got the comedy stuff, and then it's got this whole other bit at the end where it's changed to the aces, then the aces changed to queens. So this whole routine, which did in a way feel like a routine had been tacked on top of this routine. And I thought, well, is that related to that? And then I realized, well, that's a good thing, right? Because it's given me 2 routines. And then you go back to the introduction, which says, I want you to take this and adapt it. And that's why I said near the beginning that it's ready for adaptation, this stuff, because you can see chunks within the tricks where you can go, oh, that would be actually all right on its own if I need to do it shorter, or that would be all right with that, and you can start mixing and matching. And that's what I'm finding as a little tip, really, if you're reading magic books, is that even though, it's become quite a challenge for me to read these books in depth, in the time I've got to honour the kind of release date and stuff like that, which was a while ago for this, I do think it's given me that ability to, once you read through it and then read through it again and then read through it again quickly, you start being able to put things together and create your own processes, which is the beginning of this creativity he talks about. And on that, he's got these essays in it. And there is a coin bit at the end, so if I forget, but that sounds terrible, isn't it? The coin bit's amazing, but it does feel like a card book with a coin bit on it, like a lot of them do, which isn't a bad thing. I suppose there's less you can do with coins, arguably. Those coin people are going to be upset now, but never mind. The essays are great. He is someone that he's not scared to be very romantic about this, and we know this from Tamariz and all the Spanish school of magic. It's very romantic, it's very beautiful, and it's very inspiring, and it makes us realise that we're not just doing tricks. We can create something amazing. If you see his stuff, by the way, he's got that grace that I don't think I'll ever have. And that's where I think I've struggled with some of these tricks, where there's a cop, and you can imagine if he does, like if he shows that these 3 cards and he's got one copped in his hand, you're not going to know that. If I've got one copped, I'll look at it and go, that looks a bit ropey. And I'm enjoying practicing that, but it really is a challenge. So don't think this is going to be an easy pick it up, do a few tricks very quickly, unless you have that mind and you know enough moves to adapt them for yourself. So back to the essays, which I keep mentioning. We've got essays on creativity, which is lovely. Very, for want of a better word, for some people it might be a little bit on the kind of flowery side, but it almost feels like the further we get through the book, the more practical these essays seem to get. There's one later on stage fright, which I thought was just brilliant. It draws from NLP, it uses techniques that I use in teaching, so it kind of validated me as well. That was quite nice to read. He does seem to have a knowledge of NLP and communication skills, which I think he also brings into his work. So that was really useful stuff that you can take out and use and think of in a certain way, and create little paradigm shifts in your thinking, which may help you in what I think will definitely help you in your magic. I really love the essays. I think and a lot of books are doing this now, and I'm really glad they are. They're breaking up the trick with the way the person thinks and the inspirations. And funnily enough, I thought the inspirations were great. There's loads of quotes in it, lots of different references. So there's references to, obviously, magicians, Tamariz, Ascanio. There's references to Jacques Brel, people like that. There's also a reference to Chuck Norris. So, he seems to have his feet firmly on the ground as well as in the skies, I suppose, which is a lovely thing to have. There's so much I can say about this. Going back to the coin routines at the end, there's a couple of amazing matrix. I sat there one night and just played with it and thought, right, I'll get a bit of footage of this. You're going to have no footage of this, so I can't get it sorted. But it's all doable stuff, but you need to sit with it. It's very meditative, as is the book, and the practice you're going to have to do for this. So in summary, I don't have anything bad to say about this book. Because as I've said again and again, if it was a shocking book, I wouldn't do a long review and an in-depth review, and I wouldn't read it 3 times. Some books I won't have to do that because they're more theory-based, but this really does require it. This book is getting slightly kind of soft because I've read it so much, and that's a really good thing. It's going to be a challenge. You're not going to pick this book up, as I said, if you're a complete beginner. Maybe have it on the shelf as a goal. And if you are a more advanced magician, there will still be bits of it that will challenge you, which is a really good thing. You will learn a lot about magic by reading this. You will learn a lot about the classic plots. And I'm starting to really love. Look, I got the Jennings book out earlier. I just love the way they're written. And it feels like that book. And as Andy said, it's an old school book in a really good way. There's some big releases at the moment. There's a Steve Forte book. There's a Helder's book, which I've also got coming in the post. Don't let those overshadow this. All right. It's not going to be as expensive as them, and you might get just as much out of it. I know they're going to be beautiful. This is, it'll sit there and there's all these big, massive books that look amazing. And this is it looks amazing. It's a lovely cover, and it's got this lovely soft cover, which again, a bit like the Haraban's book, you can nearly double it up as a close-up, Matt. But don't bypass this, all right? If you're serious about your card magic, pick it up. I think you'll get ever such a lot from it. The only thing that I would have liked to have seen more of, I suppose, I'll just show you these. I love these. These illustrations. And I've got to remember that I said more of, and I've got to carry that on because I'll go off piece and not come back. These illustrations, by the way, not once did I think it needed more of them. They look basic. I mean, they're amazingly done. I'm not saying basic, but compared to a photo, they look like they're not going to give you as much detail, but they do. And I've had books with hundreds of photos in, and I've still gone, hang on, what angle's that from? There's none of that with this. There wasn't once when I struggled with it. What I was going to say is the one thing I would have maybe liked more of is more referencing. Now, he does talk about, within the reading, you talk about the references, but I kind of wanted I know it's a big ask, but a more specific kind of, I want to explore that, and I want to know where that comes from. But I understand that's not a reality for some people. It's going to take a lot of time, but just a little bit more explicit on the references would have been nice. Just one more trick that I mentioned that I forgot, and I don't want to edit it back in. I'll just put it now. There's this trick where a card, what's it called again? Weighted cards. Where this card like goes in face up, you show 4 cards and it's second card down, and then it just seems to melt through the cards. I'll try and get a bit of footage. I'll absolutely butcher it, but you'll get an idea. I really like that. So you will get stuff. I say it's all about classics, but you will get stuff in this book that you haven't seen that does feel new, and the cards to pocket just feels like a kind of new way of doing it the classic way. Right, I'm going to stop because I'm just going to list all the tricks, and there's loads more, and just because I haven't mentioned them doesn't mean they're not great. It's chock full of good stuff, and good coin magic, and good theory, and good inspiration. So there is Carlos Vaquera's Illusioneer. My highest recommendation. I've loved it, and I'm going to continue to love it, but I better get on with those 6 other books I've got to review, so got a couple of years of work unless I sort it out, haven't we? Thanks very much. Check out my Instagram page is @RealMagicReview. I'm going to be putting lots of behind the scenes stuff on there, and there'll be updates of when the live stuff's happening. Do like and subscribe. I go live when I can, twice a week now. I don't know about tomorrow because it's Blackpool, so I'm going to try and fit one in, but I'll be making videos in Blackpool if you're watching this before Blackpool every day. If you go in there, come and say hello. I'll be filming all day, every day, and doing little edits, and it'll be a lot of fun. So thanks very much. Have a good one. Take care. Bye bye.